Hello, this is episode number 39, and we have a great topic today. What is your relationship with your mother in honor of Mother's Day, and how does that influence your life? We're going to talk about the power of the Mother Archetype. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian Psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. All right, Rob, it's episode 39 already. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. But here we are.
Here we are. And here's our mother. It's Mother's Day.
It is. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes. And we're talking about the power of the Mother Archetype today. And so we're going to talk about what is an archetype in general. If you don't know what that is, you probably heard the term. It's been thrown out around a lot. And what it is and what Jung thought about the Mother Archetype and really its power to influence your life. It's really, to me, learning about this blew me away and made me see so many patterns in my life, how I related to things. And so you're going to really get a lot out of this show today. But before we get started, I wanted to just invite you, if you are a professional and you're looking to get into life coaching, if you are already a life coach and you like Jungian work and you say, I really would love to train with Debbie and Rob. I want to learn more about this Jungian coaching. All you need to do is go to debbieandrob.com. And if you click on the coach training link, there is a page that just shows our coach training programs. And there is right there a brand new video series that we just started called The Introduction to Jungian Coaching. And if you're interested, sign up for the free series, find out more about what Jungian coaching is, how it can work for you, and apply and get a consultation with me or Rob and find out if this type of work is right for you and start a new career or enhance your current career.
Yeah, we're really proud of this program because it's really the only one in the world that combines depth psychology, in particular Jungian psychology, with a coaching model. And so there's no need to go into therapy mode or healing. It's more about becoming aware of your mind, how to use your mind, understanding the deeper elements of what Jung talked about, like the shadow, the archetypes that we're going to be talking about.
Visualization. You learn how to use visualizations, how to write really effective visualization scripts that actually work on the unconscious and just... instead of just thinking positive.
And for us, really, the key to unlocking the secrets of Jungian psychology was Eastern philosophy. Mm-hmm. Once we understood how he had constructed his ideas, it opened up a whole new world for us. And that's what we've been doing for a few years now. So if you're interested, join us in September. We're going to start a new group.
Yes.
And it's going to be really awesome.
And if you're looking to specialize in the mind-body, we also have a mind-body training retreat in Santa Fe this summer. So both of those trainings are coming up, and we would love for you to be a part of it. And we only have a limited amount of spots. So if this interests you, apply. There's no obligation. Have a conversation with me or Rob, and we'll talk to you personally and tell you the possibilities of what could happen when you become a Jungian life coach. Yeah. And our last episode, we did have one of our graduates or soon-to-be graduates, Joanne, talk about it. So if you want to hear one of our past students or current students, and then we're going to have some more of our clients on here so you can hear more of their successes with this work. All right. So the mother, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. I heard that before. Well, let's start with an archetype. We just had done branding before. People talk about brand archetypes. People talk about, archetypes as if they're like personality types.
Yeah.
And, the term is thrown out around a lot. So if you could define it, what would you define it as?
Well, what it's not is it is not a character as a lot of people describe it. A lot of people talk about archetypes as if it was a character, like a description
like
of
the hero or the warrior.
Yes.
Or the princess, the queen. Yeah.
Now, having said that, it does lend itself to that kind of interpretation, obviously, because just like the mother archetype, we all understand what a mother is. We have a personal experience of our mothers, and then we know that every living creature appears to have a mother of some kind.
So it's kind of like a pattern that's in the consciousness that we see.
Pretty much, yes. It's Jung was not as clear as scientists would have liked them to be as far as the definition of the archetype. But in general, and the way it's been used in clinical work and certainly in our work as coaches, is that it serves as an idea that predates the individual. In other words, we're born with these archetypes already that then are filled in and correspond to our experience of, for example, the mother. And
just like a group, like we have this idea of a group, would be an archetype, like a tribe, or a group of people, a community.
Right. Yeah, so we can think of them as templates that are for general purposes, but that have innate qualities already as well. In other words, they have universal qualities already. And then, of course, a lot of people mistake their own personal projections for the archetype, but those are symbols. The individual projections that we make onto the archetype are really symbols. We're not seeing the archetype itself. We're seeing our own symbols that are associated with that archetype.
Well, for example, just to give you a picture, there's an archetype of a mother, and your mother, my mother's Gail. Gail is a symbol of my symbol of the mother archetype, or respect to that. Your mother would be a different symbol, but it's the same archetype. But you can't really see the idea of mother. It's not a physical thing that you can point to. What you see is the symbol. Yeah. You see, like, you can picture your mother's face, you have her personality and all that. So it fills up that idea. So everyone home, think about your mother. Think about that idea. We may have two mothers. Some people have step parents, or a grandmother who stepped in, or aunt, or even a caregiver. If the mother is not around or working, the au pair or the nanny becomes sort of a mother archetype. And so that would be a symbol of your mother archetype.
That's a good way to put it. The distinction between the personal and the collective, or what we might say the personal and the universal, kind of clarifies it a little bit. So my personal experience of my mother will take certain forms. For example, in dreams, she will appear to me as my mom, the one I know and the one I grew up with. The symbol can have a personal meaning, and often as we work through our individuation process, in the beginning, it's certainly a personal message that the unconscious has given me about my personal work. But as I proceed, the mother archetype will take on more of a universal aspect. So it's talking more about my relationship to the world, not so much my relationship to my mother as a personal being. Which,
when you told me that your relationship with your mother is the way you see the world, and I want to say that again, just so you get, this is the main point of this whole podcast today, is that your relationship with your mother, your personal experience, will color the way you relate to the world. So, for example, if you had a very nurturing mother, and my mother was very nurturing, very kind, very sweet, very safe. I always felt very safe with her. I never felt afraid of her. And in the world, I kind of felt that the world has, I'm kind of shocked sometimes, even now as an adult and been through so much in my life. I'm kind of shocked when people aren't nice. I'm like, how come they're not nice? Right. And so it's kind of like that expectation that people should be all like my mother. They should all be so sweet and nice. And it almost like throws me through a loop. And now if you had a critical mother or a mother who was a little cold, you may find the world being a cold place. You may find it's hard to connect, or that everyone's always criticizing you, that there's no, you never do anything right, or even that there's no friendly place for you to land. You feel maybe a little isolated, it could be. And then all of us have a range of a spectrum of the super nurturing mother and then the super cold mother. So wherever you are in that spectrum, think about, how does this relate to your life and how you relate to the world?
Yes. Yeah. And the universal aspect of the mother archetype is really incredible. Definitely. And in the work that we do see that connection, that the way the individual experience their relationship with their mother will be projected onto the material world in general, meaning everything that we see as matter will be projected, will have that aspect of the way their relationship with their mother played out early on in childhood. And so, like you say, if your mom was very nurturing and very caring, you'll tend to expect the world to be nurturing and caring as well.
It's funny. You always ask me, how come I seem to have this lucky, like everything always.
You get everything you want.
I get everything I want, but that's really how. My mother didn't spoil us, but she always gave us. She was always. I never wanted for any kind of love or affection from her. I never felt that she was not there for me, and I feel like that's sort of, maybe that's why I expect the world to always. When I went for my own business, it was scary, but I was taken care of because there was something unconscious, knowing that everything's going to work out. And so it's kind of like, I think, I'm actually just having a breakthrough right now thinking about that. It's true. Like, why do I feel Rob always thinks of me as lucky? You're so lucky, you get everything you want. But I think it is that conditioned mind that expects that things are going to be working out.
Yes. And if you were unlucky, and let's say you had a mother that wasn't nurturing and caring for some reason or another, fear not. You are not stuck with that particular point of view about the world, because if you do the individuation process, as Jung says, meaning you become your true self, you examine your own mind, your own conditioning, and you learn that you can decide for yourself what your relationship with the world will be, then you can change it. But if you leave it on autopilot, meaning you never examine your mind, you just go on and say, that's just the nature of the world. The world is unfriendly, unpredictable, and I'll always have to be on guard against the world because that's how I feel. And that's, how you're going to react to it. If you don't do the work, then that's the way you'll live out most of your life.
Well, I want to add one thing too, is that we don't, our mothers, they're their way, they're the way they were, but it's also our response to them. Because if you had a nurturing mother that was always nurturing and you rejected it, you may have a different experience with the world. Like the world's always trying to, control you, or always trying to, is always watching you or something like that. And then if you had a distant mother and maybe you found it very liberating and very independent. So it doesn't mean that, you had a critical mother and you have a terrible life, and you have a good mother and you have a great life. It's how you related to it. How did you relate to her as well? It's a dynamic between the two. It's not just a static situation. And then also too, I think that our mothers are what we perceive them to be as well. I mean, when we were younger, we saw them differently than we do now, but the early imprint from early on is really what is unconscious. It stays there. So you can have, I know a lot of people I've worked with over the years say, oh, I had a terrible relationship with my father and my mother when I was younger, but now we get along great, but I still have problems in relationships. It's like, oh, because it's the early life that you haven't come to terms with. And it's the judgment around those, who they were and what they should have done for you, what they didn't do. And that could, influence your life right now if you're still hanging on to that.
Yes.
Or not aware of it.
I don't remember where I heard this, but it's a great quote. It says, it's never too late to have a great childhood.
I love that quote.
But the idea is that because it is an interpretation that we're making about our past, we can always change it, and we can always see it from a different perspective. Now we know Freud, for example, made a whole industry out of this relationship with the mother. Much of the work was, if it, like you said, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. I think that's from Woody Allen. But that idea that our relationship with our personal mother is the first real experience that we have of bonding with another human being. And
initially, the world is our womb, when we first come into we all come through the womb. I mean, even a test tube baby has to eventually come through the womb. So you're in this womb, and your little body is in this world, and then it is birthed into the bigger world. And who's there but the mother?
Yeah, we're totally dependent on her, for sustenance and life.
Yeah.
So all those are aspects of the personal experience. At the archetypal level, though, which is what we want to get to, Jung saw that, for example, if you look at a lot of the goddesses and the demons and the mythologies around the world, the Mother Archetype is not only the nurturer and the life giver. Sometimes she takes the opposite form of the life taker.
Well, look at just a very great example is Mother Earth and hurricanes and destruction and floods. And we just had that flood last year in Houston, and a lot of people died, and tornadoes and all those things. And it's a fury of the mother. Yes,
it can take that physical aspect, but it's also the deeper psychological archetype that because the mother has the power to give life, she also has the power to take life. Right? It makes sense.
Well, they say that a lot. I put you into this world, I can take you out of this world.
Psychologically, for example, we know because we are dependent on the mother, she can smother us as well. She can stifle the life force in us, or
being overprotective
and not allowing us to individuate in that first stage of childhood, of stepping out into the bigger world on our own. And it's rare, but I have seen individuals who are very much stifled by that connection with the mother, right? They never really broke the umbilical cord psychologically with the mother, and so they're stunted in their growth and their individuation. So universally, the archetype, if you look at the art and mythology, you'll see the mother in different aspects. Now you'll see her as the fairy godmother, for example, but also as the wicked witch who poisons the apple, who tries to
eat the little children.
Trap the children and eat them, and those kind of images.
So it's kind of like the dark side of the archetype.
Exactly. And Jung says that most archetypes, or probably all of them, have a light and a dark side.
I know if you have a mother that's really nurturing and caring and sweet, the dark side would be, is she weak? Is she smothering? Is she needy? Those type of things that that influence your life as well.
Yes.
And so we always say you take on the qualities. A lot of times you become your mother, or you reject her, you rebel against certain aspects of her.
Yes.
As a woman, especially, you have to choose. Am I going to be like her, or am I going to be like someone else? I think for me, my mother was the stay-at-home mom, and got married at 19. And I always, when I remember I was a little girl, I looked it up. We were in church, and I remember thinking, she must have such a boring life. She's just a mom. I'm going to be famous one day. I remember thinking that when I was a little girl, and like, I'm going to live a big, exciting life and travel the world. And I just had that like spark. And so I think a lot of reason it took me so long to find a relationship is because I was so afraid of being trapped, like my mother, in a marriage, and to be to have someone tell me what to do and not feel like I had my own life. And so a child sees what she sees. And my mother would never say that it was a terrible thing. She loved being a mom. And then some mothers don't like being a mother. You know, there's some mothers that are just kind of forced into it or got married too young. And so there's a lot of different complexities that happen with a mother. And as a child, we expect them all to be the fairy godmother. We expect them all to be this perfection. And we forget that they're human. And so it's interesting how I chose the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I have all my clients that I feel like I'm like the Khaleesi with the dragons, always trying to, help the people that I work with and be nurturing to them.
Yeah, definitely. As children, we instinctually see what our parents' personas are like, and we unconsciously adopt aspects of their persona and say, I identify with that aspect of my mother or my father, and these other aspects I don't like. Mm-hmm. Like, you didn't like the domesticity of it, and being just a housewife, so you rejected that, which means that goes into your shadow.
So my shadow knows how to cook. I'm integrating it though now.
There you go. The whole idea is to become conscious of it so that it doesn't play out unconsciously. And that's part of our process is to become aware of what are the things that we absorbed instinctually, unconsciously, from our family life, especially from our parents, that could be impacting the way we see not only relationships, but the way we see the world in general.
When we see what we do in our career, I know for me, I tend to smother the business a little bit and try to, be overprotective of it, and so that's from my mom. She's very overprotective and making sure we're safe and worried about us all the time, and so that pattern gets translated in how I relate. So not only how you relate to your mother, but then how your mother related to you is how you may also relate to the world in the same way. And again, that other side of it is what's on the other side that is showing up. And so when you look at your life, like I would, those of you who want to explore this a little more, just think about your relationship with your mom and just describe it a little bit, write it down, and then describe how you feel, how the world feels about you. Like, do you feel accepted in the world? Do you feel loved in the world? Do you feel that people are friendly to you? Do you think that opportunities are there for you? You feel supported by the people around you, by even the companies and the whole structure of society? That's your womb, this place where you're fed and nurtured. You get your air and your security and your roof over your head. How is that all happening? Your relationship with money and with are you getting enough to flow in materialistic success, and also just feeling when you go to work, are you getting valued for the work you do? How are you
supported? Are
you appreciated? All those things. And so you're going to start to see connecting the dots everywhere. And that's the first step, is just to become aware. Now, we know awareness doesn't really change anything. You have to do something with it. So what would be a good first step for them to start working with it and undoing the unconscious?
Yes. Well, the principle is to make the unconscious conscious, like Jung says. But he also says that without emotion, there's no transformation. Meaning you have to get at the underlying emotion of why you chose to identify with certain aspects of the mother and you rejected other aspects of her.
Mm-hmm.
So that emotion, let's say the to keep it simple, the domestic housewife,
Yes,
you reject it, which goes into the unconscious. Now, it doesn't go anywhere. It goes into what Jung called the shadow. That is emotionally charged, meaning when it comes to you entering a relationship where maybe the guy expects you to be the doting housewife.
like Rob, you were when I first met you.
You're going to have an emotional reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to think that it's coming from your conscious mind because, I got my career and that's not me. He doesn't get me, whatever. But it's really coming from that deeper early experience with the mother where you rejected that aspect of her and did not identify with her.
And it was, for me, it was about feeling a man controlling me.
Right. That feeling of control then, that, need to separate and be independent, that emotional charge is what you're going to have to get at and bring it to awareness and understand where it's coming from. Because what we tend to do is project it outward. We tend to think that he's the one that's causing my anxiety.
He's the one who's not taking me out to dinner and
Right.
making me cook for him.
Yes. But in reality, and that might be true, right? That external situation might be there, but the emotional underpinnings are really arising from your conditioning, your early conditioning with the mother. So that's a simple way to kind of start to make it conscious, to really own it and say, what is this situation that's triggering me? What is it showing me about my own conditioning?
Yeah. For me, this was a really big breakthrough just in every area of my life when you said this, because we don't know why we are certain ways with things. Like, why am I why am I this way? Why am I that way? Why am I afraid of this? Why am I excited about this? Why do I reject this? And we don't know. And then when we see the pattern, we then have more awareness and more understanding, and then we can make a choice as to, do we want to continue it? Or now I know where it's coming from, I can make a different choice. But until you know that it's a pattern, your ego will make up a story about and to justify it and say, you should worry about this and you should be this way, or you shouldn't let a man control you. You should be independent. It's the modern era. You don't have to cook and clean for anyone anymore. And it'll sound very reasonable, but it'll just play into that pattern.
Yeah, and I have to say, a lot of our clients who go through the process then start to see their mothers in a very different light, because they're free from that projection of reliving their childhood all the time.
Yeah.
They're able to see their parent now, their mother, as a human being.
Not as a goddess that let you down.
Yes, and that changes the whole dynamics of the relationship, and a lot of people get closer to their parents and really kind of form a new bond, which is more on a mature level instead of playing out the old projections.
Yes, this is a great topic today. I love that we talked about it on Mother's Day.
Yeah,
very powerful. For those of you listening, just make sure you kind of think about it. Think about your mom. Think about the female that were nurturing you in your life or taking care of you, who was responsible for you. What was your relationship like? If there was more than one, maybe they were different, and maybe you don't know what to expect with the world. Is it going to be loving or critical? Or a lot of people have lost their mothers really young, and they don't have any relationships. So this kind of feeling of, that you can't depend on the world for you, and that kind of, and so we start to realize why we have these emotions and why we have these fears when we're relating with life in general, not only just romantic relationships, but every aspect of life.
Yes, And in doing individuation, you really come to terms not only with your personal mother, but also with the world. Because the world is our mother, Mother Nature, in a sense, the universal mother. We come into direct relationship with that larger archetype, and that is the universal meaning of individuation, where we really now are at home in the world. And that can only happen through that coming to terms with it through our inner work.
And those of you who don't know what individuation is really like self-actualization. It's basically individuating, becoming your true self from the conditioned ego, that ego. And so that's what's different about our work. We don't build up the ego and we don't push it away. We just realize the mechanism that it helped us get here and one piece, but it doesn't need to run our life anymore. And when we individuate, we stop really focusing on our childhood and we start focusing on how do we want to create in the future. And we're freeing ourselves from those bonds of the conditioning that created our life up until now, when we can create something new. We could keep some of the same things that are useful for us, and we can choose to move on if we want to. And that's freedom.
Yeah.
So great talk today. And for those of you who want to join us on our community on Facebook, it's Creative Love Community. We talk about love. We talk about purpose. We talk about money. We talk about success, reaching your dreams, all those things. Let us know what questions you'd like us to answer. Let us know what topics you'd like us to cover on the show. And if you're interested in becoming a certified Jungian life coach, we'd love to have you. So check it out.
Absolutely. And we need to do more. Maybe next time we'll do one on the father archetype.
Ooh, yeah. Good old dad. The father issues. Anyway, we'll have a great Mother's Day, all of you mothers out there. And for those of you like myself who aren't a mother, you're probably giving motherly love in your own way to the people around you. So remember that you are part of the world too.
Beautiful.
All right. See you next time.
Much love. Take care.
You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.